YouTube, what up? Welcome back to a new video. If this is your first time here on the channel, thanks so much for stopping by. Definitely check out some of my other videos. And if you like what you see, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. All right, so today I'm chatting a little bit about my 2024 backlog. Back in January, I uploaded a video talking about my backlog, right? And how this year I wanted to knock some of those games off of my backlog. I think I listed 12 to 15 games and my goal was to complete 10 of those games. So if you haven't seen that video, definitely go check that out. A month or so later, I uploaded a video, games that I'm currently playing. And in that video, I chatted about 2 games that I had already knocked off of my backlog list that I wanted to complete for this year, 2024. Those 2 games were Super Mario 64. Oh my gosh. And Ease 9 Monstrum Nox. So if you're interested in my thoughts on those 2 videos and some impressions of some other videos, definitely check out that video. Today though, since we're halfway through, more than halfway through the year, I figured I'd share with you what I have completed thus far and see if I'm on track. I don't know, but we're going to talk about the games from my backlog that I've currently completed. Let's get into it. All right, so the first game up here is Klonoa 2, Lunaty's Veil. I played this on my Nintendo Switch. It's part of the Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series, which includes the first 2 Klonoa games. Klonoa 2, Lunaty's Tale originally came out on the PlayStation 2. Klonoa 2 is a platformer, but I think it stands out from other platformers, the entire series, not just Klonoa 2, but I think it stands out from other platformers just because it is a 2D side-scrolling platformer at the end of the day, right? But what makes it special and what kind of makes it stand out is the fact that while it is a 2D side-scrolling platformer, it lives in this 3D space. So it's basically like you can go from the foreground to the background and from the background to the foreground. And it, like I said, it makes it seem like it's in this 3D space, right? Another thing that makes Klonoa, the series in general, stand out is definitely the fact that while Klonoa can shoot these wind bullets or whatever to defeat enemies, he can also use them to jump higher and kind of glide a little bit, and I love that too. Now, as far as the plot goes, I'm going to be honest, I don't really know. The game's super chatty. There was a lot of dialogue to be read, and I started off reading the dialogue, and then I was like, nah, not going to do this. Not today. Not today. So I kind of got lost in the sauce, but from the gist of it that I got was the fact that Klonoa was basically, he has some friends along the way for this adventure, right? And he's basically trying to save Lunaty, which is this world. So he's trying to save this whole world from what? I don't know, the baddies. Didn't pay much attention to the plot, I'm gonna be honest. Klonoa 2 has some really fun hoverboard levels that kind of breaks up the pacing of the traditional Klonoa platforming worlds or levels, which I really did enjoy. Those hoverboard levels, some of them were a bit frustrating, yeah, to say the least. But overall, I did like them. I can also say the same thing about the bosses. Really enjoyed the bosses in Klonoa 2 as well. I have my fingers crossed that maybe one of these days we'll get a new Klonoa game. I doubt that will ever happen, but here's to hoping. I mean, I think these are really fun platformers that offer something different when it comes to the genre. So glad that I'm finally able to say that I have played through and completed Klonoa 2, Lunaty's Veil. Another game that I completed off of my backlog is Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3 for the original Game Boy. Yes, it's another platformer. I'm not ashamed of that. I love me some platformers, y'all. I love platformers. But I played it on my analog pocket, and this one was, it was exciting. And not because, Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3 is the best Game Boy game ever. Now, does it hold up? Absolutely. Absolutely. And not because it has all the bells and whistles and it was the best game ever, right? That's not the case. It was exciting for me because this was the first Wario Land game that I believe I've ever played through and completed, and I just had a blast with it. The moment I completed this game, I immediately went and got my Wario Land 2 cart, and put it in my analog pocket and I started playing it. Like, these games are fun. You gotta love Wario, right? I mean, this game wasn't extremely long, but there are some weird, funky boss battles in Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. There's some really weird and funky power-ups, super basic with the platforming and the side scrolling and everything like that. I mean, it's just good old-fashioned platforming goodness that I truly do appreciate. I believe this game takes place after Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins, which I have not played through, and I really should play that before I go on to Wario Land 2. But I just had so much fun in Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. I really did. I replayed levels to try to find treasures because that was fun. One thing that I didn't like was at the end of every level, you can kind of place a bet, place the money or whatever you've earned throughout that level. You can kind of play, I guess you have an option of playing 2 mini games. And that got old fast. That got old fast. Yeah, it wasn't fun for me. I wish there were more mini games, and maybe the controls were a little bit better, but that's just me. And I also have to take into account, hello, this game came out, I believe, in like 1991 or 1992. So yeah, it's an older Game Boy game. You know how that goes. I finally completed, guys. You don't know how amazing it felt to finally complete Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. I do have this game physically complete and everything. I played the cart on my 3DS, and then the box is in my basement downstairs in like our little storage area. I have that tucked away. So yeah, I did play it physically on my 3DS. I gotta say, guys, I did not think that I was going to see credits roll in this game. This game is probably the hardest Castlevania game that I've ever played. Now, I haven't completed all the Castlevania games, right? I have completed like the Game Boy Advance trilogy. Now I can say I've completed this trilogy on the DS. I've played the NES ones and completed those. I did play Super Castlevania 4 or Castlevania 4. The difficulty in those games seemed like nothing compared to Order of Ecclesia. I was cool up until I got to one of the bosses, the little spider boss, and I must have died a good like 30-40 times before I was finally like, okay, you know what? And it's funny because that's exactly when I stopped playing the game when it originally came out. I couldn't get past that spider boss, and I knew it was coming and I just could not get past it. But determination pulled through, and I did it. And I'm so glad that I did. Finally can say that that I've completed this game. I beat it. And I really enjoyed it. And dare I say that this might be one of my favorite Castlevania games, guys. Like, I really enjoyed it. And that's a lot. It has a lot to do about the main protagonist, Klonoa. In this game, I think she's spicy. I think she's fierce. I like her a lot. She's dope. And I think it's a nice little change of pace to have her as a main protagonist in this series. Klonoa's badass. I mean, simply put, she's badass. She works for the Order of Ecclesia, and this is basically a group that's trying to take down Dracula's demise so that he doesn't return at the end of the day. In a nutshell, that's what the game's all about. Not only do I like Klonoa as a character, I think she's an awesome protagonist, I also like how different this game is. This game just does not take place in Dracula's mansion, right? You're not just like in a house. You go to different locations on a map. And I really enjoyed that. So you'll be returning to different locations. And that's pretty neat. It's a nice little change of pace. You don't really see that all that much in the Game Boy Advance series, in the DS series. But yeah, I really like the fact that you can pick different locations to go to. Now, there's also side quests in the game as well, because you're going to these locations and you're basically saving people, right? And once you save them and bring them back to like the hub area, some of them will have little quests for you to do, which I really enjoyed. I didn't do all the side quests, but I really did enjoy the ones that I did. This game also has like a new combat mechanic. It's called the glyph system, and it basically allows Klonoa to, once you beat an enemy, you have a chance of getting their glyph, which allows Klonoa to use their abilities. I don't know. I think we're long overdue for a new like 2D traditional Castlevania game. Because I had a ton of fun playing this one, despite me being frustrated just because I'm not good at video games and me dying a whole bunch. I never felt like the game was being cheap. I knew that every time that I died, especially, during the boss fights, every time that I died, it was because of my fault. I'm just not good. Last but not least, I did finally complete Yakuza 4 Remaster. It was part of I played it on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. And it's part of, this is the remastered collection, which comes with Yakuza 3, 4, and 5. And I have to say, Yakuza 4 is head over heels so much better than 3. It's funny because I was a little worried. A couple of years ago, I said to myself, you know what? I can't say I'm a fan of this series if I haven't played through majority of the games, right? So around that time that the collection came out on the PlayStation 4, I said, all right, let's go through Yakuza 3 because I hadn't played it, right? So I started playing it and I was like, oh, this is rough. This is rough. It just, 3 and 4, and I also believe 5, but not as much. 3 and 4 definitely don't have the quality of life improvements that I appreciate in these games, okay? I don't want to throw too much shade at Yakuza 3, all right? Because overall, I did enjoy the overall story, but boy, was it rough. But 4, not so much. It wasn't rough. I enjoyed it. I liked, again, this is another game that definitely switches things up a bit. I'm not going to get into the plot all that much with Yakuza 4 just because, hello, it's a Yakuza game and we all know how narrative heavy these games can get. The narrative can get deep in these games, right? But just know that it takes place like not too long after Yakuza 3. It's pretty much in Kamurocho for the most part. Majority of the game is in Kamurocho. But the cool thing about Yakuza 4 is definitely the fact that you play as 4 different characters. You have 4, almost did 8. You have 4. You have 4 different protagonists, and they're all different people, right? They're different. They have different personalities, different occupations. The cool thing about that, though, what I love the most is that they all, when it comes to the combat, they all fight differently. And that definitely switches things up when you get into these rumbles with the baddies on the street. Kiryu is still in this game. I love me some of him. I gotta tell y'all know, I love him. He's one of my favorite video games characters ever. But he's still in this game. But there's 3 new protagonists that you play as. And I found myself gravitating towards, for the most part, I liked all of them, but I found myself liking 3 of them way more than the other one, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it's really dope the way that their stories intertwine, and how they come in contact with each other, and how they're, I don't want to give away too much, how at the end it all works out for the most part. You know what I mean? Like they join forces and it's cool. But I love the way that the game was told narratively. I thought that was really neat. Now, one of the things that I love most about this series are the sub-stories, okay? And there are still sub-stories in this game, but I have to say, the sub-stories in Yakuza 4 aren't as memorable as some of the other games in this series. All I have to do now is play through Yakuza 5 and I will be done with the series for the most part. I'm not counting like the crazy like spin-off games, right, that came out on the PS2 or the PS3. I'm not counting those. That only came out in Japan, not counting those. But yeah, I love this series from the bottom of my heart. It's definitely one of my favorite video game series ever. And yeah, next year I'll definitely play through Yakuza 5. Like I said, I wanted to complete 10 games off of my backlog this year. So far, I have completed 6. I feel like I'm on track, but I don't know. Like right now, I'm playing through Persona 5 Royal, and I'm taking my time with it because I'm enjoying it a whole bunch. Like I'm into it, right? But I heard that game could take close to like 100 hours to complete. And right now, I think I'm about like 70 hours in. So I don't know how much longer it's going to take me to complete Persona 5 Royal. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. Guys, let me know if you've played through any of the games that I beat on my backlog so far this year. Let me know. Also, let me know how your backlog progression is going for this year. How are you doing? You getting those games off your backlog? As always, I want to thank all of you for watching this video, and I'll check you next time. Peace.